I remember even in preparing for this conversation, we were talking about violence prevention. There was a light bulb that went off for me that a lot of DEI work is about the concepts. It's about violence prevention. It's just not not a topic. It's not a term I used. And I started thinking about how we refer to trust and safety building in the workplace and some of the aspects of learning self and your own responses and all of that other stuff. And I think a really cool place to start, or a good place to start, is talking about that, like violence prevention. Like, what is it? Why aren't we talking about it that explicitly in workplaces? Might be able to demystify some of that. So if you have anything to share on it, that would be so helpful.
Well, first of all, I think the word violence is really strange. It just creates so much pushback for people to have to acknowledge that violence is happening. If it's happening in their home, if it's happening in their workplace, if it's happening in their neighborhood, everybody has so much pushback. And I think that's what perpetuates it so strongly, that we don't just acknowledge it. Violence is happening every day. And remember, OSHA describes violence. The definition of violence is everything from microaggression to full-blown physical or psychological event, right? It doesn't have to be an active shooter situation in the workplace to be considered violence. It can be a form of bullying. It can be gaslighting. It can be mistreatment by omission. If someone is being omitted from meetings or activities, all those things fall under the definition of violence. And I would argue it's those things on this side of the spectrum, like microaggressions, bullying, gaslighting, that lead up to those physical events, or lead up to a person just leaving or not being present. They're there, but they're not present. So all those things influence the workplace, its productivity, and your experience there. Violence is occurring every day. We need to stop pushing back on it, shed some light on it, have discussions about it, and really that's where the change is going to come. That's, in my humble opinion, that's what I believe.
No, I get that. There are certain things that I feel this is true, and I don't care what people think about it, and then I recognize it's my opinion.
Yeah.
But also, there's so much truth to what you're saying. Like saying violence feels so like almost charged. I liken it to when people say or experience someone saying white supremacy culture. It comes with like, it's too much. It's too serious. But violence is super serious. It's just not the term that I hear a lot. And even though I don't hear it, that doesn't mean it's not actually what's happening. And there's some people in my circles or places that I teach. There's some people that are very clear and confident in using that language. And I can see and feel in groups that there's this feeling of why is it so serious? I get that that's not a good thing, but why are we saying violence because people associate, like you said, those bigger types of incidents. So I appreciate even that spectrum of it could be the things that we think are very small all the way to these larger things. And often those smaller things build up to something more significant.
And it's death by, to me, it's death by 10,000 paper cuts, right? That's how it feels when you're in it. And we have an incredible advisory team for PAVE. And one of the gentlemen, Dr. Pete Margella, he's done a lot of disaster preparedness through several White House changeovers. So he's worked with several administrations. And he is well aware of what it feels like to be a survivor of violence. And he shared at one point, Arlene, you keep saying microaggressions and you keep saying microaggressions, but when you're going through that, that feels like a micro disaster. When you're the one who's getting bullied day in and day out, the term microaggression seems almost minimizing it. When the person is going through it, it truly is death by 10,000 paper cuts, and it's brutal. And if you're look at the healthcare sector, right? Nurses, let's just use nurses because it's prevalent throughout every position within the healthcare sector. They're dealing with harassment from coworkers. They're dealing with violence with a family member that has at their wit's end because a loved one is sick or hurt. They're dealing with patients that may not have all their faculties and they're violent, and we're not supporting them. We're not helping them with those violent events that they're dealing with every day.